It was supposed to be candles, music, and memories. People gathered at the intersection of A. Philip Randolph Boulevard and Jesse Street in Jacksonville just after midnight. Friends stood around parked cars, liquor bottles lined the curb, music played softly. This was supposed to be a moment of grief and remembrance for a 25-year-old artist the city had just lost. Then, 12 to 15 shots rang out. 4 people hit. 2 women in their 30s, 2 men in their late 30s and early 40s. Not teenagers caught in random crossfire. Grown adults, community members, people who likely watched Lil Papa grow up. By sunrise, yellow tape replaced the candles. Trash scattered where flowers had been. And Papa's mother broke her silence online, devastated that her son's memorial had turned into another crime scene. But anyone who understood Jacksonville knew this wasn't surprising, because this city's war didn't start with Lil Papa's death. It started more than a decade earlier, and to understand how a memorial becomes a target, you have to go back to where the hatred was born. Jacksonville has always been divided. On the east and west sides of the city, crews were forming long before social media existed. What looked like rap collectives on YouTube were, according to law enforcement, deeply connected to real street conflicts. 2 of the most referenced groups were Cut Circle and Head First, and the tension between their affiliates kept producing funerals. Back in the mid-2000s, shootings between connected factions started stacking up. A party turned deadly. Retaliation followed, then more retaliation after that. Each loss added another name to the list and another reason to respond. That was the environment Lil Papa grew up inside. He moved between the east and west sides of Jacksonville, raised by a mother who pushed church and structure. Music started as something positive. He was writing rhymes at 6 years old, but the streets were louder than church walls. By his teenage years, his lyrics reflected what he was living: survival, paranoia, and grief. His track Purple Hearts detailed surviving a shooting that killed a close friend. That wasn't performance. That was trauma recorded over a beat. At the same time, another Jacksonville rapper was rising, Julio Foolio. Early on, the two had mutual respect. They even recorded together. But social media comparisons, sneak disses, and pride slowly turned competition into something heavier. And in Jacksonville, once disrespect attaches to your name, it doesn't fade quietly. The shift happened around 2018. A reported confrontation at a mall ended in a fight. Clips circulated. People picked sides. What might have stayed a minor incident in another city became fuel in a place already running on retaliation. After that, the music changed. Tracks stopped being competitive and became direct. Names of dead friends got mentioned. Diss records dropped with specific references that the streets understood immediately. Both sides were connected to larger affiliations. Groups like 1206 Block had long histories that prosecutors had documented in unrelated cases. That meant every lyric carried consequences beyond YouTube views. Every bar could trigger something real. There were moments that looked like potential exits. Foolio publicly said at one point that dissing the dead was childish and hinted at wanting peace. For a second, it seemed like both sides might step back, but peace in Jacksonville rarely held. The streets operated on memory, and memory in this city kept a very detailed score. The music kept coming, the tension kept building. And behind the scenes, the affiliations around both artists made personal resolution nearly impossible, because it was never just about 2 people. It was about everything attached to them. Then, June 23, 2024. Around 4 a.m. in Tampa, Julio Foolio was shot and killed outside a hotel while celebrating his birthday weekend. The news spread within minutes. Jacksonville went on edge within hours. This wasn't just another headline. Foolio was one of the most visible faces of the city's rap scene, and of the beef that had defined it for years. When someone that central falls, the aftermath is never quiet. Authorities later announced arrests and described the shooting as targeted. Prosecutors referenced alleged affiliations tied to Jacksonville factions during proceedings. But in the streets, nobody waited for a press conference. People were already connecting dots before the sun came up. What made it more explosive was the symbolism. A birthday trip, a different city, cameras everywhere. It felt deliberate. Not long after Foolio's death, Lil Papa released a track titled 4 a.m. in Tampa. The title alone shut the internet down. Whether it was intended as a direct statement or not didn't matter. In Jacksonville, perception moves faster than intention. The streets read it one way, and that reading had consequences. During court proceedings related to Foolio's case, testimony referenced online reactions and celebrations from certain circles. Names came up. Affiliations got discussed publicly. The narrative grew beyond music into something the courts were now paying attention to. And the clock that had been running for years reset again. Months later, another shock. Lil Poppa was dead at 25 years old in Atlanta. Details were limited at first. Rumors spread fast. But what made his death hit harder than just the loss of a young artist was what he had been building before it happened. In 2022, he signed to Yo Gotti's CMG label, the same roster as Moneybagg Yo and ESTG. For a Jacksonville rapper to land that kind of backing meant real doors were opening. Industry support, national visibility, a genuine path to separating his name from the city's violence and building something sustainable. He had the talent, he had the platform, he had the shot. But the streets don't disappear because you sign paperwork. Reputation travels, affiliations follow, and whatever was unresolved in Jacksonville didn't stop being unresolved just because Poppa had a CMG deal. When he died, fans on both sides of the beef felt it differently. For some, it was grief. For others, the whispers started immediately, that the beef wasn't finished, that both rappers were gone, but the sides they represented were still very much alive. Affiliations don't dissolve with one death. Crews don't stand down overnight. And when memorial plans were announced in Jacksonville, people who understood the city feared exactly what ended up happening. The night started the way it was supposed to: candles, music, people sharing memories of a young man who had meant something to the community. The intersection of A. Philip Randolph Boulevard and Jesse Street felt heavy but peaceful, the kind of grief that at least has space to breathe. Just after midnight, that space closed. 12 to 15 shots. 4 down. The victims' ages told the story clearly. These weren't young kids who stumbled into something. These were adults, OGs from the neighborhood, people with years of history tied to everything that had brought everyone there. Investigators hinted early that this wasn't random. The location, the timing, the gathering, it appeared targeted. Poppa's mother posted online, heartbroken that the violence had followed her son even into the moment meant to honor him. A local pastor urged the community to stop bringing weapons to gatherings. But in a city where fear runs this deep, many residents see being unarmed as being vulnerable. That mindset alone explains how far the damage has spread. The streets read the memorial shooting the same way they read everything in this war. Get back. The message wasn't for Poppa. He was already gone. The message was for everyone still standing, a reminder that in this conflict, there are no pauses, no respect for funerals, no space for mothers to grieve without the violence showing up again. What makes Jacksonville's story so heavy is that it didn't end with one death. It didn't end with 2. Lil Poppa was 25, Julio Foolio was in his mid-20s, 2 artists who represented different sides of the same city's pain, and who, under different circumstances, could have represented Jacksonville on a national level without the violence attached to their names. Instead, their names are now timestamps in a timeline of retaliation neither of them fully controlled. Because that's what people outside this city don't understand. This was never just about 2 rappers. The rappers were visible. The war underneath them had been running for over a decade, through different names, different incidents, different funerals. The music gave it a face, social media gave it an audience. But the roots go deeper than any diss track, and until those roots get addressed, the names will keep changing. The ending will keep looking the same. 4 people shot at a memorial, a mother grieving twice, a community traumatized again. And somewhere in Jacksonville tonight, the younger generation is watching all of it, learning that this is just how things work. That's how cycles survive the people inside them.